Hi and welcome to Diablo Flamenco. In this video I'm going to give you my top 10 tips for the brand new guitarist from a flamenco guitarist perspective. So let's jump right into the material. My first tip is to create small goals for yourself because let's face it, the world of guitar is massive with dozens of different genres to play and countless different techniques that we can play on just this one instrument. So the world of guitar is very big. So how do we make it a little more manageable? Well, let's create some small goals for yourself and make them realistic to your level of playing. So I'm going to talk about for the absolute beginner, let's say this is your first time picking up a guitar. You could say a goal for yourself right now is to just be relaxed by holding the guitar. Get in a nice position and stay there. That's a goal and a realistic goal that you can get at this stage. Because what I don't want to do is be an absolute beginner and say, oh, I want to play this 10-minute long song that's incredibly difficult. That's a long-term goal that you might want to work towards, but you'll be very frustrated if you have that goal at the beginning. So make smart goals for yourself. My next tip is to have a consistent practice routine as well as keeping a practice journal. So even if we are limited in the amount of time we have to practice, let's say we only have maybe half an hour a week to practice, if we are very organized and consistent, we can still advance very quickly on the guitar. So what I recommend is looking at your schedule for the week and determining when do you want to practice and when are you the most focused. Are you more focused in the morning when you first wake up, or are you more focused right before you go to bed at night? Pick the time of day, decide how much you want to practice, how long you want to practice, and stick to that plan. And try and do it the same time every day to get a routine. This will help you stay organized and consistent. Keeping a practice journal will also help with the consistency of your practice. So you can get either a spiral notebook or a full journal, or even if you only have loose leaf or printer paper, that also works just fine. But what I recommend is writing the date on top of the paper, creating one of those small goals for yourself, what you want to accomplish in that practice session, and then create a layout on what you want to do in that practice session. So for example, let's say we have a half hour to practice the guitar. So a layout might be, I'm going to do a minute of stretching, I'm going to do 5 minutes of chords, 5 minutes of posture, 5 minutes of strumming technique, and then the rest of the time I can dedicate to playing around with music I'm working on. And if you want to be even more organized, then set a timer on your cell phone or on a clock, and the second that it goes off, move on to the next subject. Because what this does is creates what we call eustress. This is good stress, where you realize that if you are not focused, you are not going to reach your goal by the end of that little section. So this helps you stay consistent in whatever we're working on, and you're less likely to drift focus to a different topic. My next tip is to create a practice space. And this is a fun thing to do because this is where you can get creative and have a little spot where you live where you can practice and focus only on the guitar. So find a part of your house or your apartment, have a nice chair there, and start putting things that you need to play the guitar. So for example, you can put your guitar there with a nice stand, let it be displayed. Have a nice chair there that you can sit in, have a music stand with a book that you're working in, have your capos and your nail files and all sorts of things that you need to play the guitar in that one spot that you can just grab as you need it. And this will become your little haven as you're learning guitar, and when you sit in this spot, you'll be only focused on guitar. And this will also help you stay organized, and you will enjoy playing much more because you have your own little space. My next tip is to stretch before you practice. And a lot of guitarists tend to ignore hand stretches and body stretches before playing, but we want to minimize our possible injuries on the guitar. So I recommend, as an absolute beginner, to get into the habit of just taking a minute to stretch out your hands. Just do little stretches like this, pull the hand back, do some little rolls of the wrist, make sure your arms are loose, you can do some shoulder shrugs, But do this to stay very relaxed from the beginning to help minimize an injury that you might get from bad technique. And of course, while you're playing, if you do feel tension and pain, then take a moment to stop what you're doing and do these stretches as well. So that way you are taking consistent breaks and you are not developing a bad habit. My next tip is to remember to breathe. When something is new and people start building tension, we tend to forget our breathing. So remember to stay very relaxed. Let's say you're working on a chord shape. So I'm holding a C chord right now. Let's say that this is very difficult right now. Just position your hand and just breathe. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Because we tend to forget to breathe when something gives us a lot of stress, which of course isn't healthy. So remember to breathe constantly, stay very relaxed, and this will benefit your playing as well. My next tip is to start with the basic chords. And it doesn't matter what genre you play. It doesn't matter if you are a pop guitarist, a rock guitarist, or in my case, a classical flamenco guitarist. We all start with the basic chords because these chords carry over to many different genres. So in my opinion, there are 8 chords that you should start with, and these are the very basic major and minor chords. So you have C, A, G, E, and D major. When it comes to the minors, you have E minor, A minor, and D minor. Just these 8 I would start with. Practice fingering the chord, getting them under your finger, developing that hand strength to hold them, and then try switching between them at random and see if you can do it. Because this is how a lot of music works, is just switching chords within a pattern. So I want you to get into the habit of doing that, but in a simple way of just messing around with your standard chords. My next tip is to realize that slow practice is the key to advancing quickly. And I know that sounds really weird, but it's true. What we don't want to do when we first start learning something is to go full speed. Because 1, our body doesn't understand how to do this concept. 2, we might develop a bad habit. And 3, we're not developing the proper muscle memory needed to make this technique easy. So it doesn't matter what you're doing, if it's strumming or picking or chords, start very small and very slowly. So let's say, for example, we're doing strumming. What we don't want to do is try and do that right away, right? Especially if you're not used to this. So what I recommend is very slowly getting used to the movement of the strum, and very gradually you can start picking up the speed as you get comfortable. But this is just going to develop that muscle memory even more to the point where you're not going to be thinking about this stuff. It's just going to flow naturally, and that is the real goal of playing guitar, is making it look easy. My next tip is to listen to as much guitar music as you can, because listening is how we understand things at first. So what I recommend is, it doesn't matter what genre you play, listen to as many genres as you can. So for example, I may be a flamenco guitarist, but I also listen to classic rock. I'm a big classic rock fan. I love Van Halen and Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and all these other artists. And I've gotten inspiration from listening to these artists. And you are going to do the same. And it doesn't have to be guitar music either. You can also listen to world music, like reggae or different ska music or music from India and the Middle East. All sorts of music you can listen to get inspiration. And you might find a sound that you really like, and when you do, you can try and copy it the best you can. And this is how we learn and also spread ideas in the guitar community. My next tip is to have a positive attitude. And I know at the beginning that might be challenging, because you might be trying to learn something new, and then you might say, oh, I suck, I'm not good at this. But that's an unhealthy way to go about learning. Because we have to remember that everyone starts somewhere. We all start from the bottom and work our way up. And once you realize that, the world of guitar becomes just a little bit easier when you realize that it doesn't matter how good a player might be, they all started in your shoe. So have a positive outlook. So what my teacher says is, it's not that you can't do it, you just can't do it yet. Meaning, at this moment it's hard, but with practice and time, this is going to get easy. So having that positive outlook will make your playing much easier. You'll have a healthier outlook on the instrument, and you'll be enjoying your time with the guitar much more. And finally, my last tip is to be patient with yourself, because like I said at the beginning of this video, the world of guitar is massive. Especially if you're learning a genre that has a lot of requirements like classical guitar, flamenco guitar, or jazz guitar. There could be a lot of material in these genres. So we have to be patient because there's so much to learn. So to me, I tell people to just enjoy the journey of learning. And like I said earlier, pick those small goals, work at them consistently, don't get too frustrated yourself from the beginning if something isn't clicking right away. Be patient with yourself and results will show. And keep being persistent. And those are my top 10 tips for the brand new guitarist. If you have any questions, please feel free to write me a comment down below in the comment section. And remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this in the future. And I will see you in the next video. Hasta luego.